Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. So, I haven't really talked in detail about how I organize my watches as far as keeping a list of all my watches, just so I kind of don't get lost. I have over 100 watches. Is it ever hard to kind of remember what I have and remember some basic information about those watches? I don't have to kind of rummage through them all. And so I actually do have a spreadsheet that I use for keeping track of my watches. Now, I know I have some friends who are in the computer programming software industry as a career. And one friend in particular, kind of one of his catchphrases seems to be, you don't want to use a spreadsheet for that. So I realize that there may be some application that may work better for some folks, but it also comes down to, some people ask me, what's the best kind of camera you can have? And I think the camera that you like to use, because all cameras these days are pretty good. So if there's one you like to use, you like to take it with you when you go places, that's probably the best one for you. I mean, the camera on a phone these days is really, really good. So if the kids are doing something cute and you want to snap a picture of that, use your phone. That's great. If you want to say, kids, hold on, stop having fun while I get out the DSLR and I take some nice, if you're ready for that, that's fine. And DSLR cameras are great. Every camera is great these days, but again, maybe the best thing for you is the one that is with you and you will use it. So for me, coming back to the spreadsheet idea, I made a spreadsheet to keep track of my watches because I'm comfortable using spreadsheets, and it's nothing too complicated. I just need a good list, kind of a database. Rather than using special database software, I just use a spreadsheet and it works out okay. So let me just show you this spreadsheet. And if you have any experience with spreadsheets, I don't think I need to share this spreadsheet with you and say, oh, let me send you this file and you can use this file for yourself. No. If you have any experience with spreadsheets, you could easily create this spreadsheet from scratch because it's really easy. And but let me show you how I've decided to design this spreadsheet to keep track of my watches. Now, of course, you can use whatever spreadsheet software you happen to have, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm using right now the spreadsheet that came with my iPad, and this is nice because now I can synchronize this spreadsheet across the cloud. So I can bring it up on my iPad or my phone or even my desktop computer. And when I make an update on any of those locations, it basically updates to all the locations. So here's my spreadsheet. So you can see a bunch of columns here. The first column is just what is the watch. Now, I don't necessarily have the exact name of the watch and model number and all that. The first several watches on this list are just whatever name made sense to me. For example, there's Casio Bolivia, which is a watch that I bought in Bolivia back in 1985. Now, if I had purchased several watches in Bolivia or several Casio watches in Bolivia, I might have to be more specific about that. But for the purposes of my organization in my head, this makes perfect sense to just call it Casio Bolivia. And so you can see, as I get farther down the list, I did get a little more specific about model numbers and things like that, the official names of these watches, because I just was better at knowing that. So let's go back to the top here. So battery is the next column. So this is important because one of the first things I want to know as I'm organizing my watches is, now what battery does this watch use? If the battery starts to look like the display is going dim or some indication the battery is losing its power and it's time for a new battery, I want to know, okay, what battery do I use? So it's important for me to have that as a column, one of the first columns on there with the information. Next, I have the year that I acquired the watch. That's important to me. Then I have some other characteristics of the watch, like is it an atomic watch with some sort of radio-controlled receiver built in there? Is it solar powered? Does it have a backlight? Does it have alarms? And if it does have alarms, how many alarms does it have? Does it have an hourly chime? Is it water resistant? And as I go down the list here, I can acknowledge it's water resistant, or I can be more specific about that. Like it's a 200 meter water resistance, or a 100 meter, or 50 meter, or whatever it happens to be. Now the next column is also important to me. When is the last time I changed the battery? Now I've kind of, put a little shading on some of these, where if it's a watch that is maybe a wind-up watch, a mechanical watch, then I don't list when there was a battery change. I also don't list that there's a battery change on the ones that are solar powered, because it could be well more than a decade before I'd have to worry about changing a battery on the solar powered one. So for the moment, I don't list a battery for what type of battery any of those solar powered watches use, and I don't list a time when that battery may have been changed. My next column just happens to be any other notes that I might have about that watch. And so most of these, I finally figured out what is the exact module for a Casio watch. So I've listed the modules for all of these. And you can see as I get down farther on the list, I may have duplicates of several watches. Now there may be some characteristics that are different, color or other materials that are associated with this particular version of the watch, but maybe they all use the same module. So I've done some color coding to kind of help me keep those groups together. And with this particular spreadsheet, rather than maybe list everything in chronological order, I've kind of grouped things together in watches that are variations of the same model or those that use the same module. I've kind of kept those together in this particular arrangement. And then finally, I've just got a column here that gives me a running count, a running total of how many watches this is. This doesn't really have to be something in particular. I won't have to say, oh yes, my GWM 5610 with the red stripe is watch number 47. Well, not necessarily, but but that just tells me that I have at least 47 watches, and I go down here near the bottom of the list, and 108 there. I have some watches that I've acquired since the last time I updated this spreadsheet, and I haven't completely coordinated all of the color coding on here, but I think you get a general idea of what I'm trying to accomplish. And again, the most important thing for me about this is it's just kind of fun to see, well, what is my running count of how many watches I have? I did go through this list one by one and double check it against my cases full of watches, just to make sure there wasn't something missing from this list, or there wasn't something on this list that was a duplicate, and I only had one watch, but it was listed twice. I went through and made sure that was all correct. And now I think if I'm just a little bit diligent about it, I can keep this going. But honestly, if I've got a watch here that has, say, a 10-year battery, well, then so far I have not made a note on here of when I changed the battery, because frankly, it hasn't needed a new battery since I bought it. But when I do change the battery, I'll make a note there. And then it'll be interesting to see how long the battery actually lasts. Or maybe if I have a question about that watch, I can look up in this spreadsheet and go, well, I guess it's okay. It's safe to take this watch on my trip to Europe because I only changed the battery 3 years ago, so it should have 6 or 7 years left on the battery. I don't have to worry about the battery giving out while I'm in the middle of Europe and I don't really want to go to a watch store to get a new battery. That sort of thing. That's all kind of easy to manage now with this particular spreadsheet that works well for me. If you have some other idea on how you would like to organize a spreadsheet, like I said, I think you are capable of building one from scratch. And this just gives you an idea of what I did. You can do something similar. When it comes to battery changes, I wanted to make one other point. You see, I like to change the batteries on my watches myself. Part of that is just the convenience factor, because I can just do it at home. I don't have to make a special trip to some store, some jeweler, some shopping mall, wherever, to have someone else do it. Also, it's kind of fun for me to dig in and do something with the watch, because so many of my quartz watches are really maintenance free. So if the only thing I'm ever really going to do is keep it clean and occasionally change the battery, it's kind of fun to do that myself. Okay. And then the other thing is, I just think, I was in a Walmart a few months ago, and someone came in to have the battery changed on their watch, and I happened to be right next to the jewelry counter when they did this. And I think they charged them $10. And my wife tells me at this one watch place at the mall, she went in there with her mother, and they charged like $12 to change a battery on a watch. Or maybe it's somewhere between $10 and $15 to take your watch in and have someone else change the battery. Okay, and I think it usually takes about 5 minutes. Okay, and they charge you $10. You know, that's more than paying like the auto mechanic who's going to, you know, rebuild the brake system on your car. Obviously, you're not paying for a full hour of service. And for the convenience factor, maybe it's no big deal for you to pay $10. And obviously, part of that price includes the battery itself. Now, I keep kind of a stockpile of batteries that I think I'm going to need, and I get those off the internet. So you can buy, say, a 5-pack of some specific size of lithium battery. And sometimes I get those for like $6. 5 batteries for a total of $6 for all of them. And I just keep those in a safe place so that when I need them, they're already in my house. So, I think I'll change the battery on this watch, and 5 minutes later, I've done it because all the material I need is right there in my house. I like to do it that way. You don't have to do it that way. But I know that if you were to go to even a Walmart, which is supposed to have great prices, and just bought the battery from Walmart, you'd probably pay, you know, up to $5 just for the battery, even if you wanted to do it yourself. And then, you know, maybe $10 to have someone else do it. So, okay, I really have no problem if you decide you want to go have someone else change your batteries, you want them to be responsible for it, and you feel comfortable with someone else who has more experience is going to do this. That's fine. I like to do it myself. I'm not so sure that the person I saw working at the Walmart store was really that much of an expert on watches and changing batteries. You know, they could have easily been the same person that restocks the dog food. You know, not to put them down, but you know, if I were going to go somewhere else to have a battery change because I was comfortable with someone else doing it, I might choose the experienced jeweler. But anyway, I'm getting lost in the weeds there. The main reason I have this, how many watches do I have? What are they, and what batteries do they use, and when do I need to change those batteries? The other day, someone asked me about a watch they saw on my channel, and there was a comment on the video I made that said, "Hey, what kind of battery does that use?" It took me, about 30 seconds to look at my spreadsheet here and go, "Oh yeah, there's that watch," and I could answer their question. Just that simple. And that's kind of fun. So if you have any ideas about how you would like to organize the information you have about your watches, this is just what I do. And congratulations if you're the software application guru who can make a really cool database rather than using a spreadsheet. But for me, spreadsheet's fine. And I thought I should tell you about that as I venture into yet another season of maybe acquiring some more watches. And I'll have some updates to that spreadsheet for myself coming very soon. But I don't need to tell you about that on an upcoming episode. So, but stay tuned for other things that I will tell you about right here on the Good Timekeeping Show.